The UCF Knights go down in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Who knew free throws were important?
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every day and for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network out there. I'm going to skip all the other stuff I normally say. I'm bummed. This was tough to watch. This was a winnable game, gentlemen. Obviously, we're going to talk about what went wrong. Guy I had singled out as an important player tonight, Ja'Michael Stilwell, had a rough night. We'll talk about his rough night. And we're obviously going to talk a lot about free throw shooting tonight. And then I want to get you guys' thoughts on this season as a whole with this first round loss. Joining me on today's show is James Duncan and Kyle Nash, both of UCFKnightZone.com. Gentlemen, let's just start with your raw, visceral reaction to this one. I was screaming at my TV. This was a winnable game. The turnovers, 17 turnovers in the first half. You know, one of the things we talked about were the slow starts. UCF, we knew UCF wasn't going to go away in this game. Felt like they lost this game in the first 10 minutes. I got a lot to say, but I want to give you guys the floor to talk about what was a really disappointing end to a season that felt like it had a lot of hope in this first round. Kyle, start with you, man.
Yeah, listen, I'll just say the thing real quick here as the new guy, because I know James has been doing the fantastic coverage throughout the season. I'll wrap up what you say just very simple with one stat. 11 turnovers in the first half. 10 field goals made in the first half. It begins and ends there, gentlemen. And you mentioned the free throws and all that. I know that we talk a lot about that too. But if I was going to wrap in one stat that really kind of moved the ball for me, I mean, obviously there was some stuff at the end of the game. Yes, they had the surge at the end of the first half, but 10 field goals made in the first half, 11 turnovers. You had as many in one half as you did in an entire game on average. I know you and James have talked a lot about that throughout the season as well here too, and that's just very uncharacteristic of this squad.
James, did it feel like nobody wanted to shoot the ball in the first 10 minutes of the game? We talked about this, about you can't play timid. You got to take shots confidently, step in them. They were there, and it felt like they were overpassing the ball, and were they in their own heads, man? What did you see out there?
This felt like what we've seen the past 5 or 6 games. And it's a shame because I think we've talked about a lot like, oh, this is uncharacteristic of the Knights that we've seen. This is not the normal Knights that we had for a majority of the season. But man, these past couple weeks, the Knights have found themselves some new habits and they have died hard with them. It has been a struggle to watch this team go from a team that really just focused on moving the ball around, and when they got an open shot, taking the shot that was open. And now it seems like no one wants to take a shot. And I think it goes to show you that like earlier in the season, there was a certain level of confidence. When they got out there tonight, it felt like nerves because everyone was playing like they were on uppers. I mean, it was ridiculous. That first half, they got out there, and don't get me wrong, going up, 8-0 or whatever to start was great, but most of those were not lucky buckets, but they were like sporadic, like crazy spaz buckets. And I don't understand that is not a consistent offense.
Yeah,
there was no running an actual offense, and it was really frustrating to watch. You watch a guy just dribble around and then force a shot inside or force a bad three. And we talked about a lot of things in our pregame episode. I don't think we realized that the downfall of this team was going to be the most basic 2 things that you have to do to not lose, and that is hit your free throws and don't turn the ball over. And the Knights did an unbelievable job about doing both of those things today.
Listen to this. 5 of 16 from the free throw line.
Disgusting.
5 of 16. I threw up in my mouth a little saying that out loud. UCLA was 13 of 18 from the free throw line, which, listen, isn't awesome. That's 72% from the free throw line. If you have a regular night from the free throw line, you win this game. Or at least have a better shot at the end. That is an absolute, like, that's here. Now, mind you, John Bowl was like a third of that. He was 0 for 5. Yeah. But Ja'Michael Stilwell, again, we're going to talk about him in the next segment. And I don't want to pick on him. And I know Kyle's got his feelings about this, but they needed him to show up tonight. And I had him singled out as the guy. So I'm particularly disappointed because I had him as a dude. Now, there was an opportunity here, guys. Tyler Bilodeau didn't play. Their leading scorer sat this game out. My guy, Zach Anderson from Locked On UCLA, came on this show and said, look, man, I still think we got a real good chance because of defense. Look, hats off to them. We haven't done this, so I just want to make sure I congratulate UCLA on advancing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, they did what they had to do, and UCF didn't. And I just want to state that. I don't want to be disrespectful to them. They stepped up to the free throw line. They hit their free throws. But on the same time, this was a winnable game. They went 6 of 21 from 3. They were 29% from 3. They shot 40% from the field barely as a team. Now, what else did we say needed to happen? I told you that I wanted to see UCF put up 70 shots in this game. They did it, but it was a lot of that was at the end, jacking up shots, trying to come back. They started this game less than 30 shots in the first half. And I was just like, what are we doing? We're not getting up enough shots. They had to, the percentages would held from 3, guys. They were a 36% three-point team coming into this game. They shot 38% tonight. The percentages held. But then you failed in other areas with turning the ball over. How many times down the stretch did they have single digits in turnovers? Single digits in turnovers, guys. 17 turnovers, man, in your most important game of the year. That's so disappointing. That's so disappointing.
I'll even accent it with this, Mike. You mentioned what they were for the season, but coming into this game, right, 17.6 over the past 3 games combined coming into this tournament. They weren't hitting the 3 ball either. And earlier in the week when I was talking to you, not to take away from James' points with the preview because I learned some stuff there with that, but when I was talking to you, I was pounding the table. They need to stop the 3. They need to hit some 3s. Yep. And granted, I called for a win if they had scored 72 points. They scored 71 and just shot themselves in the foot too many times.
Yeah, but you did. But none of us saw 5 of 16 from the free throw line coming.
Not at all.
Let's just point this out. Like,
yeah,
I mean, if they're not 5 of 16 from the free throw line, even with Stilwell having a tough night, they probably win this game without Bilodeau. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think we really knew that until game time either, that he wasn't going to play. He was questionable, obviously, but I didn't see him sitting out. I thought they might use him in limited time. Now, again, hats off to my guy, Zach Anderson, over at Locked On UCLA. Buddy, if you're watching this, he said one of the keys to the game would be the health of some of those guys, right? This game had some weird stuff going on. They called a penalty, a foul on Sky Clark that sent him to the bench for like 2.5, almost 3 minutes, and then they retracted the foul. The refs did, and said, oops, that wasn't on him. So he sat out like 3 minutes of this game that he would not have sat out otherwise had they not called that foul on him. But, you know, we thought he had 4 fouls late in this game. It seemed like there were some things that were going UCF's way. Now that we've got some of the negative out of the way, I do want to say, I want to talk about some positives. And guys, we see your comments. We're going to get to your comments at the beginning of our second segment. This team, hats off to them to fight their way back into this game. James, how much were they down? They were down at 14 to 16 at one point.
I think 14.
14 at one point, and just did not let this game get out of reach. And I knew they had that in them. I said, if anybody's sitting here thinking this game is over, it's not. They've done this all year. They've not let anybody really run. They didn't let Arizona do it to them. They darn sure weren't going to let UCLA do it to them. But there were some unfortunate things that happened here, man. And I want to talk officiating. I just didn't want to talk officiating first. Kyle, you and I were texting during the game, and you said it, man. Can you figure out what's going on with these refs? And they're not calling anything consistently. Chat, we want to hear from you on the refs as well, too. But even outside that, if you're UCF, you had to be prepared for that. This is college basketball. I've not been impressed with officiating across college basketball this year. You're not going to get calls sometimes, but the opportunities were still there for you to win this game. Let's get to our first break, and then I want to talk about my guy, Ja'Michael. Again, I don't want to pick on him, but I had high hopes for him coming into this game, and it just wasn't his night. If you're UCF, you needed him. You needed this to be his night. You didn't get it. We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our title sponsor, Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to score than what's on the screen. These moments remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, that I never quit. And I want to say, UCF basketball did not quit tonight. When the chips were down, they did not quit. They fought every single second down to the triple zeros. And I think every UCF fan should be proud of that. Look, Mazda puts the same passion into every model. Highlight, make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Mazda, move and moved. This episode of Locked On UCF is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book and the official sports betting partner of the NCAA tournament. Guys, college basketball is nonstop. Tonight was a big game. There are going to be tight spreads. There are going to be momentum swings throughout this tournament, from early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger potential win with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate paying out. And then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up that potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Locked On UCF listeners, we've got an opportunity for you. Look, if you didn't get it in, you still might be able to slide it in today. But with code MARCH, they said before tip-off, but I think it extends through the end of the day. You can get your first month of the Everydayer Club free. What is the Everydayer Club? Well, if you like the work that we're doing here at Locked On UCF, you can sign up for the Everydayer Club and get ad-free episodes and your entry into a private Discord chat where we hang out daily. If you want to talk to me, James, Kyle, we'll be in and out of that Discord chat, but mostly other UCF fans just like yourself. The link will be in the show notes for you guys. So head on over to lockedonucf.supercast.com to sign up today. If you missed the boat on that free month with code MARCH, it's only $5 a month. So again, if you like the work that we're doing here at Locked On UCF, sign up for the Everydayers Club. That $5 a month will help us continue to move the coverage you love the most forward, especially with spring football approaching. I will be in Orlando covering spring live. So we'll be bringing you more of the content you love. Sign up for the Everydayers Club to help support us. Fellas, Ja'Michael Stilwell, 3 of 8. I think again, we talked about free throw shooting, and I said a lot of it was bowl, but they missed 11 free throws tonight. 10 of them were Bowl and Ja'Michael Stilwell. 10 of them. If he hits the 5 he misses, UCF wins this game. And he had a tough night shooting, but the free throw line is your reprieve, man. Go to the free throw line, see the ball go through the hoop, and You could still help your team on a tough night, man. It didn't happen. This is mental. I know he can hit free throws. This is mental. What am I missing here with Ja'Michael Stilwell, guys? I thought that he would be a key to this game. He was a key, just the wrong kind of key.
Well, see, here's the thing. And by the way, I know part of it is, Mike, throughout the week, hell, even me earlier in the week with you, we stood on business thinking that Ja'Michael Stilwell could be a difference in the game. It was clear his ankle was affecting him. And listen, as a guy who was terrible at free throw shooting when he did play basketball lightly in high school, when you come through, that ankle and that less stability impacts you. And I think it actually impacts him on any element of offense too.
Should they have pulled him off the court then, Kyle?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think you could afford to. His impact on the glass was absolutely huge. Towards
13 rebounds.
Yeah, both of these pushes they made at the end of the first half and towards the end of the game, Ja'Michael Stilwell's defense was still a huge impact. I hear where you're going, where the offensive numbers and the points and the not making shots was a problem, but in a situation where you're already giving up points in the paint the way you are, turnovers are going the way they are, you have to keep somebody on defense to keep the spark going. And actually, the last thing I'll say, too, about his field goal attempts, the officiating was a factor here. I don't think it was necessarily all pad calls against UCF. They were wildly inconsistent at times. But, guys, we were looking at a place, what were we, 12 and a half minutes in before the first foul. Or no, sorry, 8.5 minutes in before the first foul, 12.5 minutes in before the first free throw. And I'm pretty sure UCLA didn't get to the foul line until 29.5 minutes in. That's right. That's in the second half, ladies and gentlemen. So this was just the way the officials were calling that game. Dudes were getting mugged. And I feel like UCLA reacted to that a little faster than UCF did. UCF, to James's point earlier, insisted on constant attack. And instead of letting people collapse and kicking the ball out sooner, you saw Fultz constantly finding out every time he went into the lane and trying to get the foul that he wasn't getting it. So over and above a night where the free throws aren't coming in the percentages, you're not getting to the line all that much anyway. Those misses in that case too with the free throw, Mike, as a last point, all the more rich and impactful. But Stilwell's impact may not have been in the points column. He was still in other parts of the court.
James, was there a coaching failure here? He played 28 minutes. Beal contributed 5 points. He was 2 of 6 shooting. He only played 10 minutes tonight. Before we started recording, you talked about who was it that you talked about that they took off the injury report, but then
Fumena was someone that was not listed as questionable on the injury report coming into the game after previously being listed, and he didn't play a single minute. Hulsaway, I believe, only played 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
And was subbed out. You went really small this game. Bull had to get subbed out because of an injury. So you didn't have any 3 of your centers in reality. I mean, no Fumena, Hulsaway played 2 minutes, and then you had Bull get hurt and didn't play, I think, the entire second half. So you played really small. Stilwell was your 5. He had as many boards as the top 2 rebounding players on UCLA combined. They
out-rebounded UCLA by 12.
Yeah, I mean, you really did have a lot of opportunities on the glass. I think it was just the converting the rebounds into points that was the major issue.
Let me pause you there. Kyle, you and I talked about offensive rebound. Maybe it was with it definitely was. It was with my guy Zach Anderson. I talked about offensive rebounding with him. And James, I want to let you finish. I just wanted to make this point. 25-15. They beat UCLA on the offensive boards tonight. 25 offensive rebounds. For as small as they played, boy, did they get after it on the offensive rebounds, man.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the problem was converting those O boards into points. If you had taken better shots outside of the offensive rebound, generally, I would say, hey, if you get the ball inside off an offensive rebound, put it right back up. This game, if you are huddled by 4 people, pass the ball out. It seems like the obvious decision, but it wasn't tonight. I mean, I want to give a lot of credit to UCLA for how many blocks they had. 9 blocks as a team in comparison to UCF's 2 blocks. That was a result of poor shot taking inside the paint, especially off of offensive rebounds. I don't think that team averages 9 blocks a game. I think they definitely played significantly better defense. I think it just really, truthfully, comes down to poor shooting decisions. And I really quickly want to go over this before we get into our next segment, but I marked 4 guys this game. A guy that can't have a bad game, a guy that needs to have a good game, a guy that needs to get streaky, and a bench warrior. And I said, I believe if we get at least 3 of those 4, we will win this game. I want to go to Themis Fulks. Themis Fulks was a guy that I really needed to have a good game. He had a solid game. I don't want to take any credit away from him, but 6 turnovers?
Yeah.
6 turnovers? You can't do that. So I don't think that gives you the right to say, hey, that's a good game from Themis. Also 0 from 2 outside the arc. Didn't get to the free throw line, which is very uncommon for him. I feel like he does usually draw a lot of fouls. Then we went to Kugel. I said Kugel can't have a bad game. Shot 2 from 7 from 3-point. He just chucked up shots. He had 2 or 3 really silly fouls that I just thought were just not a good idea. Also combine that with 2 turnovers, but I would say that's kind of a, half and half, maybe give him a 0.5. And then Jordan Burks was the guy that I said he needs to get hot. And boy, did he get hot.
He showed up
6 for 11 from outside the arc. Jordan Burks was one of the only reasons that you were in this game. He also had a block combined with 6 rebounds total. And then our bench warrior, who has been so consistent in the past 2 months, Chris Johnson, came off the bench, played 14 minutes and scored 0 points on 0 for 3 shooting. Didn't get to the line, had 1 board and 1 assist. You can't win like this. And I know that we want to point to the free throws, but the free throws should have just been the cherry on top. Because truthfully, if you had played even 2 to 3% better than you did,
you win.
You win, and you don't even need the free throws. They should not have gone away from the press at all. The press was working. You went away from it. You got in a half-court offense or half-court defense, and then you got destroyed because you forget to close out the shooter in the corner. I want to give a lot of credit to Eric Daly and Xavier Booker, 2 guys that I highlighted as stretch bigs.
Zach
they came on and made some threes.
Yeah, Zach talked about Eric Daly Jr. as well, too. Eric Daly Jr. is a guy who averages 11.3 points per game coming into this one, shoots 49% from the field. So he was, a guy who he felt like, this guy has a chance to make a difference. Sky Clark, another guy who he highlighted. And tonight, he was only 4 of 12 from the field, but he was 7 of 10 from the free throw line. So he ended with 15 really, really big points for them tonight.
And half of a tooth missing.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh, man. Ooh, boy, that was.
And he came back. I mean, all credit to that guy. That's tough. That's just a tough dude right there.
Yeah. I'm missing our guy Andrew Glukov tonight. It's really hard to fit 4 people on the screen, which is why he's not here right now. But I'm going to do a segment with him hopefully tomorrow to get his thoughts on what happened tonight and where UCF goes from here. James, you said something that I think is funny. Is that it's not a team that averages 9 blocks. I want to point out this is not a team that averages 13 steals a game either, right? And while I do want to give credit to the defense they played, sloppy passing by UCF,
right?
Throwing the ball to UCLA. Where was the focus, man? I talked about this in some of the pre-games we did. I was really leaning on Johnny Dawkins to get these guys dialed in mental mistakes. This wasn't an issue of talent. It wasn't an issue. They were capable. They were more than capable of winning this game. To me, they lost the game up here. And by the time they got it together, because they are a team that fights and scraps and never gives up, It was just too late. They could not afford a slow start. Not tonight, not against this team, the way they play defense.
And this is what I think is funny, Mike. We keep pointing to the 9 blocks. This isn't a team that got 9 blocks. Let's remember John Bull getting hit in the head and in the eye, but that's marked a block. This was about the way this game was called. No disrespect to you pointing that number out, James. It's a factor.
Yeah.
But this is one that was evidence of not only how physical they were allowed to play. A dude gets a chipped tooth and there's no whistle. It was called a jump ball. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
It's that element, but it's also proof of the scrappiness that UCF played through that to stay in it.
Also want to point in, UCLA was a 5.5-point favorite coming into this one. They did not cover. They won this game by 4. And I was pretty bullish on the over. And I'm telling you, I don't know, man. Like if UCF hits free throws, they probably hit the over in this game. This game goes a little differently. It hit some free throws and shots that they normally make, and the over was there. They were very capable of hitting the over in this game.
Maybe you would have got your 82 points, right, Mike.
Well, I called this one 82-74. UCLA did exactly what I thought they were going to do. It was UCF that didn't hold up their end of the bargain. 82-74. I expected about this amount of points from UCLA. I just thought UCF was going to score a little more than they did, man. And those opportunities were there. It still has a normal night. I think they get there, from the free throw line. And I just, oh man, guys, I'm hurting. And I apologize to anybody who's watching this. And if this seems a little unprofessional, but I have grown to love UCF, man. And watching this was hard. This was hard, man. I wanted this for these guys. They've played their ass off all year. And they worked hard for this. And I know they weren't ready for their season to be over. I know UCF fans weren't either. That is a good segue into our last segment. Was this season a failure or a success after this first round game? We're going to get to that. Before we do, though, I do want to acknowledge some comments here. We don't do this often, so I just want to make sure those of you joining us live, we talk. We recognize your comments. Act for UCF says, are layups really that hard to make? We missed 15 or so.
1 of 14 in the second half, Mike, in layups.
Oh my goodness. It's tough. Let's see here. My guy Off-Brand Soda says devastating. Just one word is how my guy is feeling right here. Devastating. Prolific Locked On UCF commentator, Econ Advisor says UCF had the leading scorer, rebounder, assist guy in the game, 1 rebounding and offensive rebounds by 10, made 12 threes versus 6 for UCLA. I think what he's missing here at the end is and lost.
And lost, yes.
I mean, Econ Advisor comes back and says, had a chance with 8 seconds left, hated Cronin was sweating. Mike,
that says a lot about the scrappiness right
there. Mike Sutter just says WTF. Econ Advisor has a few comments here. Says, tribute to the 4 departing seniors. Thank you for all you gave us. And Coach Dawkins coached another masterful game.
Those 4 departing seniors, by the way, are Themis Folks, Riley Kugel, George Beal Jr., and Ja'Michael Stilwell. Everybody else on the team has and Devon Cambridge. Everybody else on the team with some years of eligibility. Ja'Michael Stilwell has 2 years of JUCO as well. Depending on some rule changes, he might have some eligibility left.
Yeah, listen, man, I think we've seen that Johnny Dawkins can put together a winner. So hopefully you get some pieces returning and, you build on that. You hit the portal, you find some guys who want to come in here and play hard-nosed defense, and you'll have a chance. You can win at UCF. If you are recruiting, you're watching this, I'm telling you right now, you can win at UCF. This is a place you want to go. Johnny Dawkins is a coach you want to play for. Last comment here before we get to the break. UCLA told to keep folks out of the paint and never let Stilwell get off a shot unhit. They certainly played physical. I'll put it at that. And you guys have both highlighted that the way this game was called, that definitely played in UCLA's favor. I think that they played a physical game, and it seems they were just kind of letting some things go. Don't want to blame the refs at the end of the day, fellas, but also we just want to recognize the dynamic that was out there in this one. So you've got to understand the situation that you're in and adapt to how the game is being called, right? They're not calling it, do what they're doing.
Credit to Coach Cronin for figuring it out faster than UCF did.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think UCF figured it out, but it was just
it just happened late,
not quickly, not fast enough, man,
right.
Not fast enough. Let's get to our final break, and when we come back, we're gonna do a very, very raw and way too early season in review. Usually I like to let my emotions digest a little bit before we recap, but I did want to get you guys' raw reactions to how you feel the season went. Talk about that next right here on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your IAQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live and in a market, guys, powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. You play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. This episode of Locked On UCF is also brought to you by our friends at Supply House. You wouldn't show up on a game day without a plan, and you wouldn't show up to a job without the right parts. That's why putting Supply House in your starting lineup is always the right call. Here are the stats. 300,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products, 500 tried and true brands, and 90% of the country is in the 1 to 2 day delivery zone. Need a last minute coupling, a compressor, a press tool. They've got it, and they'll get it to you quickly. Look, Supply House is simply just clutch. If you're a pro in the trades, you can join the MVP of rewards programs and become a trade master. Pros get exclusive member-only pricing, priority shipping, industry-leading customer service, and it's absolutely free. Visit supplyhouse.com/TM to learn more about becoming a trade master. Use promo code SH5College for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, promo code SH5College. Supply House, real people, real service. Fellas, the season is in the books. Unfortunately, no more UCF basketball this season. UCF loses to UCLA in the first round. The 10th seeded Knights were taken down by the 7th seeded UCLA Bruins. How do you see this season? This was a sub 500 conference team last year. You lost the conference's leading scorer to the portal, and you made the tournament the next year. You made the tournament this next year. You won 5 to 6 quad one games. You gave Arizona all they wanted. Their team that we will probably see in the Final Four this year. This was a masterful coaching job. Had they not lost those last 3 down the stretch, I think Johnny Dawkins might have been the Big 12 coach of the year, honestly. They didn't blow those last 3 down the stretch. I really felt like he would have been deserving of that award. Now, while he might not have been the Big 12 coach of the year, certainly this was a stunning turnaround for this team year over year. Make no mistake, there were people who were calling for his head this offseason. Terry Mohajir ignored the calls to fire Johnny Dawkins. He stuck with his guy, and they made the NCAA tournament, finished well in the top half of the conference. I think this season, while it was disappointing to have a first-round exit, they fought tonight. I don't love how they lost it, but they did not give up. And I think that is a credit to the coach that this team never feels out of it.
Yeah, there was never a talent gap here, Mike. And I think that's the biggest tribute to Johnny Dawkins. And listen, I've been covering Johnny for a number of years now myself, man. This is a guy that always does it right. And I mentioned this in past shows with you. This is a guy who's now proven that he can do it with a different set of guys and a different strategy. When I keep hearing Stat Boy Drew, and he'll probably mention it again when you're on with him tomorrow, mention how bad this team is on defense, it blows my bleeding mind because it's so very un-Dawkins-like. Yet here he is, with guys chucking it from a cheap seats in what I haven't seen in the past half decade. I don't know how long it goes, James. Maybe you know better than I do. But this group shooting from three like this is something I hadn't seen since I've been covering Johnny, and it's another style of team. He evolved from going in what it might be friendly to call a mid-major and finding ways to pull guys further along and at least have bubble buzz to actually making an at-large in the second best league in the country, according to Conference Commissioner Pete Yormark in the Big 12. This is absolutely a successful season. And for all those fire Johnny goofballs out there, yeah, I said it. Fire Johnny goofballs out there, I said it. Okay. He's going to get an extension because of this. Deal with it.
James, talk to me, man. How do you feel about this season?
I don't think this was something that anyone expected. I if you had told me last year after what that team did, I would have just expected another year of mediocrity. And we didn't get that. Do I think that we got the level of success that I think people realized was possible after halfway through the season? No. And I think were these, past 5-6 games kind of a microcosm of what UCF basketball has been the past 5 years? Yes. Do I think that this shows that Dawkins can still play? Do I think this shows that Dawkins can stick around and improve this program? Yes, I do. I don't think that it would be right to fire him after this season. And I still think there's a lot of fans that would disagree with me. I think there's a lot of fans that would say, well, look, he lost. Yes. His players shot 30% from the free throw line.
Yeah,
that's Johnny Dawkins isn't out there shooting.
He can't shoot the free throws. Yes,
I think if you put however old Dawkins is out there on the free throw line, I think he would have made more. I mean, I don't know. I just think that it is. I think you need to put as much funding into basketball as you can, because I think he was underfunded. I think he was underestimated. And I think he went out there and he got you an at-large bid, like you said, in the best college basketball conference in the country. It was not an easy journey getting here. They beat Kansas. They beat Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. They beat Texas A&M in College Station. They beat BYU in Provo, and it wasn't close. But they were one of the 2 teams so far out of, I believe, the 7 teams or 8 teams in the Big 12 that are in March Madness to lose. And they lost to a team that, quite frankly, did not impress me. There was nothing that they did tonight that said this team was just flat out better than us. UCF shot themselves in the foot so many times this game that they don't have anywhere else to shoot. There's no foot left. They literally turned the ball over 17 times, shot 30% from the line, and still covered the spread of this game. I'm looking at it through poop-colored glasses right now because I'm so frustrated about this game. But I think Dawkins had a really solid season. I think he gave himself a little bit of a nest egg of players. I think if Ja'Michael can get some eligibility, maybe George Beal can get some eligibility. I know they both have cases for it. Chris Johnson could come in and replace Kugel. He's a little bit less selfish. Carmelo Pacheco, a great shooter. He's got young talent in Tanner Jones and Zach Johnson. I think Elijah Hulsaway might need to move on. I don't think he's going to have an opportunity here. And Fumena also is a redshirt junior. And Chris Parker is another young guy. John Bull, only a sophomore. You have guys on this team that are going to hopefully come back and play for the Knights next year and develop under Dawkins. This team, at the minimum, should be going to play in March again next year. And I think if then Dawkins doesn't hit that bar, then you might have a reason.
Yeah. I think almost a third of their schedule made the NCAA tournament, guys.
That's wild.
I'm pretty sure. Like I'm just doing some quick math here.
I think two of their non-cons made the schedule.
Well, I think Vanderbilt made it, right?
Yeah, Andy and Texas A&M, right?
Texas A&M made it, for sure. And then in the conference, I think you had like 8 teams make it.
Well, and we've talked about this, Mike. Not many programs come out swinging with a tough non-con. And heck, if you want to count the exhibition against a Duke team, I mean, they didn't win the game, but they done played them. And listen, I asked, the guys there that were present at the selection availability. I don't know if you've seen the clip, but 2 of them thought it was the Kansas game, but it was Jordan Burks that said, we were competing with Duke. I knew we were a tournament team at that point. I think he says like, we're competing with him, shoot, something like that. I mean, that conversation right there speaks to Johnny's coaching ability and what these dudes were doing from game 1, not just in conference play.
Yeah. Look, this was Arizona made it, Houston made it, Iowa State made it, Kansas made it, Texas Tech made it, BYU made it. Did TCU make it? I think TCU made it as well too.
And they beat Ohio
State. And they beat Ohio State.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. That's 7. I said 8, but UCF was the 8th team. So that's 7 teams from your conference, not you, that made it.
And I believe Hofstra made it, which was that was their first non-con. Vandy made it, which was also in their non-con. Texas A&M made it, which was they were also in their non-con. I mean, they had a multitude of teams from their non-con go out and make the tournament, and that have actually played pretty well. I think Texas A&M and Vandy have both made it past the first round. You can't look and say this team wasn't battle tested. They played really hard. They played a great schedule, and they played really solid for a majority of the year. Where the typical Dawkins midseason slide happened, it happened at the end of the year going into the tournament. You lost your momentum. You pulled out a gritty win against the Bearcats that you should not have won statistically. But then you put up a great 3-point shooting night up against the Bruins.
Yeah.
You still lose. And I think this season, this UCLA game was a microcosm of the back half of the season. And what are you going to do?
I do want to make sure, guys, we're going to have Zach Anderson from Locked On Bruins join us. So Kyle, in a second, I'm going to let you go. James, I want you to stick around for Kyle. But before he jumps in, I want to make sure that we celebrate Jordan Burks. I mean, I don't want to be super negative tonight. We're obviously disappointed with the loss, but this dude went 8 of 15 from the field tonight, 22 points in 32 minutes, and shot 6 of 11 from 3. And as many turnovers as they had tonight, Jordan Burks only had 1 of them. He had 1 turnover. 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Come on, man. This dude, 2 offensive rebounds. This dude was a dude tonight. And he's a junior. He's got eligibility left. Man, I hope he comes back to UCF for another year.
When you got a coach like Johnny, it might happen. But fire Johnny, right, fellas?
God, yeah, I mean, he showed up tonight. I think he was the only Knight to shoot better than 50% from the field tonight.
And those two stretches where they got it 2 single digits, big part of those runs for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, down the stretch, just the 3, he was unconscious tonight. He was definitely UCF's player of the game. So congratulations to Jordan Burks, man. Brother, you had a game tonight. And look, for as much as we pointed out the negative, I do want to make sure that we celebrate the spirit that this team had all season long. They just refused to quit. They refused to be beat, without having a say some night, without being scrappy and making you fight every single second until that clock hit triple zeros. And that's a credit not only to those guys, but also to Johnny Dawkins. Again, before we bring Zach in here, the last point I do want to make is, James, you said something that's really important. I want Kyle to weigh in on this. NIL, man. NIL. We got emails after one NIL segment we did. So I just want to be clear. UCF has filled their $20.6 million bucket. They have. However, we all know the investment goes beyond that. And some schools took a very cautious approach to this because there was some question about whether the collectives would be like the collective deals would be classified under count toward your cap. And other schools said, you haven't proven that you can enforce this. We're betting that it won't be. So we're going to spend above and beyond that. I'm not saying that they got to go out and spend what Texas Tech is spending on NIL, but they got to spend a little bit more. And as much as I believe in coaching and development, sometimes you just got to go out and get dogs, man. And at basketball, just one can really change the game for you. One superstar, 7-figure player can absolutely transform your season.
How'd that work for Auburn this year, Mike?
Yeah. Look, but he wasn't that dude, though. He was the Big 12 leading scorer, and he came in. And here's the thing, and here's I agree with you. I agree with you, but I think how this year worked, I think showed you that you can find success spreading it out. Do both. But you can do both.
Absolutely. And the teams like Kansas, Duke, those teams, Arizona, that are able to find the funding to be able to go get a guy and then spread a decent amount of wealth to the rest of the team will consistently always have success because of that factor. But a team like UCF that is less funded than those teams, I don't know if you're able to do both, and I would rather have a team that's spread out. But I think this is a discussion that could honestly be its own episode. So yeah,
I want to be clear. I'm less talking about the portal and more talking about the 5-star high school kid.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because the portal is a whole different thing. I'm still old school in this way that I believe in both basketball and football. The bedrock of high school recruiting is still the foundational element to being consistently good. Getting kids from high school and training them up in your program. You develop them.
And right. there's two things that make this program uniquely qualified to make that happen, right?
Okay.
You're saying go and get dogs, and when you say not the transfer portal, I agree, because getting a dog from high school is cheaper than going to the portal and getting
100%.
So there's one.
But Kyle, there will be kids that will be worth that 7-figure straight out of high school. I get it.
Oh yeah,
right.
I'm not shooting that down either. But there's two elements: A, no state tax. And B, dudes want to play for Johnny Dawkins.
Yeah, you know what? You're in Florida. And on top of that, you're in Orlando. You got great weather. You've got professional sports teams everywhere. You got Disney World, literally. You've got hotter women than most other places in the country. Orlando is the place you want to be. Come on, man.
And Mike, we went out and we got a great, phenomenal high school recruit.
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
And
I thought you were going to say, look, man, we hit the strip, and I'm telling you.
we went out and we got a phenomenal freshman, and then we tied him to a coach, and that coach tied him to another program. Yeah. And so I think it's tough. You know, everybody that's watching this should know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but it's like, it's tough, man. With the current NIL situation, there's a reason that happens. There's a reason that those funded programs, they go and they get those guys. So
again, I want to be clear here. I'm not saying you got to spend what they're spending. I'm saying give my boy just a few more chips to play with. That's all I'm saying. Give my boy a few more chips to play with, so that if he sees a guy that he absolutely has to have, it won't be about whether you can match so-and-so's deal or not, right? If he's got one guy that he can open the checkbook for every single recruiting cycle, I'm good with that at least, right? So that once you take money off the board, it becomes about all the traditional tenets of recruiting. Let's just match the money so that we can talk about basketball. Now that the money is matched, here's why you want to come to UCF. Not because of money, right? We get it. That's part of it. But let's take care of your money so that we can talk about how we're going to make you the best basketball player on the planet here at UCF. Give him at least that for one, and in a perfect world, maybe two players every year. And I think that you'll see Johnny Dawkins become the best coach in the Big 12. Guys, I want to get Zach Anderson in here before we get out of here. Kyle Nash, I want to thank you for joining me. So happy to have you part of our team. My brother, we're going to let you go, and we're going to bring Kyle in here from Locked On Bruins. Kyle, congratulations, man. You guys are moving on. We're going home. Talk to me. Some things you said came to pass in this game.
Hold on. Sorry, I can't hear you. I'll hop back in.
Do you say you can't hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we were missing Zach's. I think Zach was missing his audio there. We could hear him, but
okay, yeah.
You know, congratulations to Zach. You know, his team is moving on, and I'm sure he's gonna have a lot of points for us about what we did wrong.
Look, Eric, he did. Look, we had before the game, we highlighted, you and I did, Donovan Dent, Tyler Bilodeau, who didn't play, and Trent Perry. And he said, look, man, we can win without those guys. And the two guys that he brought up were Eric Daly Jr. and Sky Clark. And those guys had a massive impact on this game. I think we got Zach back here. Let's try him again. Zach, can you hear us, brother?
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
There we go.
Congratulations on the win. You guys are moving on. UCF, we're not.
How much we have to compare? How many minutes of actual basketball did we watch compared to the last few minutes where there's just teeth on the floor, reviews, stoppages? I mean, like, we were really watching basketball at the end. That was not drama at all.
Yeah, it was tough. Look, you hammered the under on this one.
I almost got the score correct. Exactly.
You did. You know what? I want to say I almost got the score correct, too. I said 82-74.
I went 74-69.
Yeah, so you guys had it was UCF that I couldn't peg down. But UCLA, I had them right there at 74. He scored 75 points tonight. But I did want to talk about two guys who had a massive impact on this game. You said this in the crossover we did. You highlighted Eric Daly and Sky Clark. And those are two guys we talked about all night long tonight. And the absence of Tyler Bilodeau. Talk to me about these guys and the impact that they had on this game.
Well, let's start with Eric Daly Jr. That was the guy I remember we were talking off there. I was like, this is the dude that we should add to this program. And he is the guy that can win a game. UCLA has a bunch of dudes that can win a game in the tournament by themselves. And Eric Daly Jr. was that type of guy. Now, we took a lot of ISO shots, a lot of bad shots late in the game, but he also hit some clutch threes, 2 of 6 from 3. He felt like the guy who could go get a shot. He was the only one making it for UCLA.
Their
Now,
leading
if we
scorer
shift to
tonight,
Sky
20
Clark,
points.
yeah, 20 points, and that's only the second time he's done that this year. But he's had quiet 15-point nights, but when he does that, it just helps UCLA so much. For a team that loves to slow down the game, tempo-wise, possession by possession, he's the dude that if he's making his shots, it makes a huge difference. Sky Clark, though, you can see the difference when he's in foul trouble versus when he's got teeth, when he doesn't have teeth, when he's on the court. He was ready to go. And while it didn't look like it in this game, just the 8 points, just being there for UCLA on the court gave Donovan Dent another option to potentially break the press. And Trent Perry's a little young. Clark, he's a fourth-year player. He's on his third school. He's been through some things in life. So he's the guy that's ready for this moment. UCLA, when they lost to Tennessee a year ago in the tournament, Sky Clark was in foul trouble, just like this game. And I was like, it can't happen 2 years in a row where UCLA's in some deep water because Sky Clark is in foul trouble. And it almost got to them again today. He's a guy that can easily go get 10 to 15, maybe 20. He scored 30 plus earlier this year. And UCF, to their credit, got him out the court. And it was almost that phantom foul that UCF did not take advantage of when everybody thought he had 4, that when he was off the court for 2 minutes, if UCF had just made an extra leap and crept a little closer in the scoreboard, they could have won that game when Sky Clark was wrongfully removed from the game, everybody thinking he had 4. Now you look at Bilodeau. I had this thought that UCLA could win this game without Bilodeau, but it seemed like everybody with the UCLA brass was fairly confident that he was going to play. Now, I'm not that involved. I don't know too much behind the scenes there specifically, but from what I've read, from what I understood, Cronin said all the same things. Now, what's starting to become a trend in the NCAA tournament, we saw the SMU coach say this, their dude was healthy. Well, they got waxed by Miami in the first 4. Cronin said Bilodeau's ready to go, but his knee was a little stiff in shoot around. Do we really think a dude a week off a knee sprain in the Big Ten tournament was going to be ready? I thought he might be, but he's going to need to be ready for the second round. And if UCLA was willing to gamble him being a little stiffer today to play in game 2 and round 2 of the NCAA tournament, Cronin maybe made that gamble, which is tough to say. But I mean, I think the guy who stood up the most, Xavier Booker. Like, that's not a dude who's played like that this whole season. I can guarantee you that if you're watching on the UCF side of things, he has not been defensive, he has not gotten rebounds, nor has he scored. He hasn't done all 3 of those in the same game. He has not been able to be like, hey, let's put him in the game. He's the guy Cronin is the first to put him on the bench. He's played a minute to start the game and been yanked. So more so than Daly, it was Booker, whose impact as the transfer from Michigan State, the former 5-star high school product, where UCF was bullying the Bruins in the paint at times. Stilwell was getting every rebound, but not when Booker was making his face known. He was the dude that made things happen for UCLA offensively, defensively, and most importantly, not getting murdered in the rebounding category.
Zach, before we get out of here, I do want to talk to you. As we are recording this, I believe UCLA will face off against UConn or Furman. That game is going on right now. It looks like UConn is up by 7 as we're recording this. What do you see for UCLA in the next round? Are you guys going to get by UConn, or how good do you feel about that next game?
I mean, my bracket says it will. My bracket says it will. The actual record says it won't. This is the game I think they need Tyler Bilodeau the most. Bilodeau needs to score and be healthy. And if Cronin had the foresight and he was willing to gamble that they could get by without Bilodeau in this game, I could give him credit. If Bilodeau is not healthy and not ready, which no fault to his own, it's just a curse UCLA has in conference tournaments, they need him. And UConn is built with the 6'8 forwards. They're built with those guys like Caravan who can shoot and score. They need Bilodeau to be out there to open the paint. UCF somewhat clogged the paint. There's nobody to stretch the floor with Bilodeau out there as the 5. Booker can, but Bilodeau, I knew they could beat UCF without him, but moving forward, they need some semblance of production from him. They don't need 18 points per game, but they need him. The health for UCLA's tournament is imperative. Now, if Furman can go do something crazy, more power to him. We're all expecting UConn, and this game's in Philly, a lot closer to Philly is UConn than UCLA is. And we saw this last year, 2-7, second round game. The Bruins were in Lexington taking on Tennessee. Started okay early, and then they just fell off the map. I think the Bruins will be a little more competitive in this game, but it again all comes down to health. I talked about that for the first round. Health is what's going to determine UCLA's fate. Unfortunately, it might end early if there's no Bilodeau.
Zach from Locked On UCLA. I want to thank you for jumping in to join us. Hopefully you got more basketball to talk about after this weekend, my brother. Congratulations on the win. We will talk to you later. I'm going to bring Kyle Nash back in here. Thanks, Zach. Guys, it's time. We've been on for an hour. This is officially the longest show in Locked On UCF history. Before we get out of here, I just want to make sure that we definitively answer the question of our third segment. Was this season a success or a failure? This is a disappointing end, but I think overall it was a success. I think it validated the decision that Terry Mohajir did to stick with his guy. And I think it shows you that if you give Johnny Dawkins a little bit more, he can take this team even further. I think he was an excellent steward over what he was given this year, what he had to work with. And I'm disappointed, but I see this season as a success. James, what do you think? Success or failure?
A step in the right direction.
Okay.
I think that's all I can. That's all you can really ask for. I think if you take enough steps in the right direction, you'll get to where you want to be. And I think that this was a large step in the right direction. I think it improves it increases the expectation, and with increased expectation comes if you go below. I don't think that Dawkins' seat is not warm. I don't think that seat is a cold seat at all. I'm getting tweeted at by people saying well, we're going to go on this show and talk about how much we love Johnny Dawkins. I think Johnny Dawkins is a great guy. I think he's a great coach. I think he's had some really tough years here at UCF. I think this was not one of them. I think this was a great year, a great step in the right direction. If you can do the same thing next year and give me a win in the round of 64, I'll be happy.
Kyle Nash, success or failure this season?
Over and above adding to long-term success, Mike, here's the thing. All the stuff about UCF moving into the Big 12 and all the things they weren't supposed to compete in, basketball was among them. And while there's plenty of times where football perhaps has been disappointing and some of the other sports perhaps at times without going down the full Olympic gamut, here's what we know. Standing on business and keeping Johnny Dawkins in the building, and maybe one could argue that economics is what's protecting him, regardless of whatever fans are tweeting at poor James over here. Like, that's the big piece. You aren't going to find what Johnny Dawkins does at his price, and you have the added advantage that Dawkins likes being here. Listen, all the sources I hear from close to the athletic department say that they'll keep Johnny here as long as he wants to be here because he's the right guy and he's winning the day. And by the way, not many coaches in UCF history have made the dance as an at-large. But fire Johnny. But what do I know?
Yeah, look, I mean, for 20-plus win seasons, you see kind of here the Mount Rushmore of UCF basketball coaches. And look, man, he's got a tournament win under his belt. We hope that he would get another one this year. I hear you both. And, James, I think completely valid to say, I'm more just step in the right direction. I'm somewhere in the middle, step in the right direction. Let's see it again. That is a completely valid take to take. But look, man, we want to hear from you. Hit the comments after this show and let us know what you think. Was this season a success or a failure? Drop that in the comments after the show. We want to hear from you. Before we get out of here, I want to remind you guys, join the Everydayers Club, lockedonucf.supercast.com to get started today. Help support the work that we're doing here. We're bringing you guys lots of coverage, even more coverage this offseason than anybody that covers UCF on YouTube. So we want to keep this going. You guys can help us by signing up today. Let's go on and get out of here. We will talk to you guys tomorrow with Stat Boy Drew right here on Locked On UCF.